Adam Bede by George Eliot. With a single drop of ink for a mirror, the Egyptian sorcerer undertakes to reveal to any chance comer far-reaching visions of the past. This is what I undertake to do for you, reader. With this drop of ink at the end of my pen, I will show you the roomy workshop of Mr. Jonathan Burge, carpenter and builder, in the village of Hayslop, as it appeared on the 18th of June in the year of our Lord, 1799. The afternoon sun was warm on the 5 workmen there, busy upon doors and window frames and wainscoting. The tallest of them was carving a shield in the centre of a wooden mantelpiece. The sleeve, rolled up above the elbow, showed an arm that was likely to win the prize for feats of strength. Yet the long, supple hand, with its broad fingertips, looked ready for works of skill. In his tall stalwartness, Adam Bede was a Saxon, and justified his name, but the jet-black hair made the more noticeable by its contrast with a light paper cap, and the keen glance of the dark eyes that shone from under strongly marked, prominent and mobile eyebrows, indicated a mixture of Celtic blood. The face was large and roughly hewn, and when in repose, had no other beauty than such as belongs to an expression of good-humoured, honest intelligence. About 6:45, there was an unusual appearance of excitement in the village of Hayslop. The inhabitants had evidently been drawn out of their houses by something more than the pleasure of lounging in the evening sunshine. The Donnithorne Arms stood at the entrance of the village. Mr. Casson, the landlord, had been for some time standing at the door with his hands in his pockets. His thoughts were diverted by the approach of a horseman. "Take off the bridle and give him a drink, ostler," said the traveller to the lad in a smock frock. "Why, what's up in your pretty village, landlord?" he continued, getting down. "There seems to be quite a stir." "It's the Methodist preaching, sir. It's been gave out as a young woman's going to preach on the green," answered Mr. Casson. "And what does your parson say, I wonder, to a young woman preaching just under his nose?" "Parson Irwin, sir, doesn't live here. He lives at Broxton over the hill there." "But you've not got many Methodists about here, surely?" "There's a fine batch of Methodists on Treddleston. There's pretty nigh a score of them on the green now, though there's only 2 men of them in all Hayslop. That's Will Maskery, the wheelwright, and Seth Bede, a young man as works at the carpentering." "The preacher comes from Treddleston then, does she?" "Nay, sir, she comes out of Stonyshire, pretty nigh 30 miles off. But she's a visiting here, about at Mr. Poyser's at the old farm. She's own niece to Poyser's wife." "Well, I wish I had time to wait and see her, but I must get on. I've been out of my way for the last 20 minutes to have a look at that place in the valley. It's Squire Donnithorne's, I suppose?" "Yes, sir, that's Donnithorne Chase, that is. It's Captain Donnithorne as is here, sir, Squire Donnithorne's grandson." "I met as fine a young fellow as ever I saw in my life about half an hour ago. A carpenter, tall, broad-shouldered fellow with black hair and black eyes." "Aye, sir, that's Adam Bede. Aye, he's uncommon clever, steady fellow, and wonderful strong. He's an uncommon favourite with the gentry, sir. Captain Donnithorne and Parson Irwin make a fine fuss with him." "Well, good evening to you, landlord. I must get on." "Your servant, sir. Good evening." The traveller put his horse into a quick walk up the village, but when he approached the green, his curiosity to see the young female preacher proved too much for his anxiety to get to the end of his journey, and he paused. The men were chiefly gathered in the neighbourhood of the blacksmith's shop. The stronger curiosity of the women had drawn them quite to the edge of the green. Underneath the maple there was a small cart which had been brought from the wheelwrights to serve as a pulpit, and round this a couple of benches and a few chairs had been placed. The traveller pushed his horse onto the green, as Dinah Morris walked rather quickly towards the cart under the maple tree. While she was near Seth's tall figure, she looked short, but when she had mounted the cart and was away from all comparison, she seemed above the middle height of woman, an effect which was due to the slimness of her figure and the simple line of her black stuff dress. A sweet woman, the stranger said to himself, but surely nature never meant her for a preacher. "Dear friends," she said in a clear but not loud voice, "let us pray for a blessing." The traveller had been chained to the spot against his will by the charm of Dinah's mellow treble tones. The quiet depth of conviction with which she spoke seemed in itself an evidence for the truth of her message. Dinah had been speaking at least an hour, and the reddening light of the parting day seemed to give a solemn emphasis to her closing words. The stranger now turned his horse aside and pursued his way. In less than an hour from that time, Seth Bede was walking by Dinah's side along the hedgerow path. Only a few minutes' walk from the yard gates of the Hall Farm at last gave Seth courage to speak. "You've quite made up your mind to go back to Snowfield a Saturday, Dinah?" "Yes," said Dinah quietly, "I'm called there." "We should be o' one heart and o' one mind, Dinah." When Seth had once begun to urge his suit, he went on earnestly. Dinah paused as she turned towards Seth and said in her tender but calm treble notes, "Seth Bede, I thank you for your love towards me, and if I could think of any man as more than a Christian brother, I think it would be you. But my heart is not free to marry. My life is too short, and God's work is too great for me to think of making a home for myself in this world. Seth, I see that our marriage is not God's will." "Well, Dinah, I must seek for strength to bear it, for I could be content without your marrying me if I could go and live at Snowfield." "No, Seth. I counsel you to wait patiently and not lightly to leave your own country and kindred." "But you'd let me write your letter, Dinah, if there was anything I wanted to tell you?" "Yes, sure. Let me know if you're in any trouble. You'll be continually in my prayers." They had now reached the yard gate, and Seth said, "I won't go in, Dinah. So farewell." A green valley, with a brook running through it, full almost to overflowing with the late rains, overhung by low, stooping willows. Across this brook a plank is thrown, and over this plank Adam Bede is passing with his undoubting step, followed closely by his dog Jip. He is evidently making his way to the thatched house. The door of the house is open, and an elderly woman is looking out. Lisbeth Bede loves her son with the love of a woman to whom her firstborn has come late in life. She is an anxious, spare, yet vigorous old woman, clean as a snowdrop. Lisbeth is tall, and in other points too there is a strong likeness between her and her son Adam. "Well, my lad, it's gone 7 by the clock. They wants that supper I'll want. Where's Seth? Gone out to summer chaplain, I reckon." Aye, Seth's at no harm, mother, they mayst be sure, but where's father?" said Adam quickly. "Hasn't he done the coffin for Thola? There's the stuff standing just as I left it this morning." "He went off to Treddles on this forenoon, and he's never come back." A deep flush of anger passed rapidly over Adam's face. Too angry to speak, he walked into the workshop. "Nay, my lad, thee munna go without that supper." "Let be," said Adam impetuously. "My throat's too full to swallow victuals." "Why, they can't get the coffin ready," said Lisbeth. "Isn't the coffin promised? I'd work my right hand off sooner than deceive people with lies in that way. I shall overrun these doings before long. I've stood enough of them." "Nay, my lad, thee mun forgive thy father. He was a good father to thee before he took to the drink." "I know there's a duty to be done by my father, but it isn't my duty to encourage him in running headlong to ruin." So the hours passed, to the loud ticking of the old day clock and the sound of Adam's tools. At last he called for a light and a draught of water. "Don't thee sit up, mother," said Adam in a gentle voice. "I'll see to father when he comes home." "Nay, I'll bide till Seth comes." It was then past 9 by the clock, and before it had struck 10, the latch was lifted and Seth entered. "Why, Mother," he said, "how is it as father's working so late?" "It's none of thy father is as working." Seth passed into the workshop and said, "What? Father's forgot the coffin?" "Ah, lad, it's the old tale, but I shall get it done," said Adam. "Why, what's the matter with thee? Thee't in trouble." "Yes, Addy, but it's what must be borne and can't be helped." He turned into the house-place. "Come, Mother, don't grieve thyself in vain," said Seth. "Thee's not half so good reason to think as Adam will go away as to think he'll stay with thee. Think how he's stood by us all when it's been none too easy. Many a young man like him had have been married and settled before now." "Oh, don't talk to me about marrying," said Lisbeth. "He's set his heart on that Hetty's sorrel, as'll never save a penny." "But, Mother, thee knowest we canna love just where other folks would have us. But it's a matter as he doesn't like to be spoke about. Let me pray a bit with thee for father and Adam, and all of us." In half an hour all was quiet. No sound was to be heard in the house but the loud ticking of the old day clock and the ringing of Adam's tools. There was no need to call Seth, for he was already moving overhead and presently came down the stairs. "Now, lad," said Adam as Seth made his appearance, "the coffin's done and we can take it over to Broxton and be back again before 6:30. By 6 o'clock the task was done, the coffin nailed down, and Adam and Seth were on their way home. They chose a shorter way homeward, which would take them across the fields and the brook in front of the house. "Why, what's that sticking against the willow?" said Seth. Adam made no answer to Seth, but ran forward, and in 2 moments he was at the bridge. Seth was already by his side helping him, and when they had the body on the bank, their father lay dead before them.